Rules of differentiation, part 2. There is a lot of rules for getting the derivative. And that is nice. These rules are supposed to help us get the derivative. We cannot stick to the limit definition of the derivative because it's painful in your hands to complete steps 1, steps 2, and steps 3. We will present the second set of rules to get the derivative of functions. So this is the first set of rules that we showed in previous slides. The derivative of the constant function is equal to 0. When your function is a simple linear function, f of x is equal to m times x. F prime of x is equal to m, the slope of your line. Okay? If you have a function defined by f of x is equal to x raised to n, f prime of x is equal to n times x raised to n minus 1. And in general, if you have a constant function and a differentiable function, their product is c times f of x. And the derivative of that function is equal to this, c times f prime of x. If you have two differentiable functions, if you have a sum or difference of two functions, okay, their derivative is the sum of their derivatives or the difference of their derivatives. Rules of differentiation part 2. So some of this we presented in our first set of rules. Rule 4. Constant coefficients. d over dx of c times f of x is equal to c times d over dx of f of x. The derivative of the sum or difference of two differentiable functions is equal to the sum or difference of their derivatives. Okay, so this is our addition. This is our new set of rules to get the derivative of functions. So this one pertains to the product of two differentiable functions. And that is why we call it the product rule. So normally students would say if you have something like f times g of x, f of x times g of x, most students who are not paying attention will tell you that their derivative is equal to f prime of x times g prime of x, which is wrong. Okay, so this is wrong. Okay, that is not how we get the derivative of a product of two differentiable functions. So it's going to be this way, the product rule. So if you have f times g, okay, let's say for example, I will just write this as f times g. So its derivative is equal to f times g prime plus f prime times g. That is the product rule. How about the quotient rule? d over dx of f of x divided by g of x is equal to this. It's called the quotient rule. And I had a mnemonics when I was in college to help me remember this rule. So let's say, for example, our function is a quotient of two functions. It has a numerator. I will call it high. Okay, high for the numerator. And the denominator, I will call it low. Okay, so the derivative of a quotient of two differentiable function is equal to low d high. Okay, low d high minus high d low all over low, the square of low. Low stands for the denominator, the function in your denominator, times d high, the derivative of the function in the numerator, minus high, the numerator, times d low, the derivative of your low, and then the square of low, the square of the function in your denominator. So low d high d low. Low d high minus high d low. Example 2.13, applying laws of the derivative. Find the derivative of this function. So x squared is differentiable in the entire set of real numbers. It's the same with your cosine function. So these two functions are differentiable. So we will apply your product rule. This is the product rule. Okay, so f prime of x is equal to x squared. Okay, so that is your f of x times d over dx of cosine of x plus d over dx of x squared times cosine of x. F prime of x is equal to x squared times, from the previous slide, we learned that the derivative of cosine of x is equal to negative sine of x. Okay? Plus d over dx of x squared, it's equal to 2 times x times cosine of x. And so simplifying this function, it is just equal to f prime of x is equal to negative x squared times sine of x plus 2 times x times cosine of x. How about for the quotient? What is the derivative of f of x if f of x is equal to 1 minus 3x divided by cosine of x? So we will apply your quotient rule here. Law, okay, law d high, okay, minus high d law divided by the square of your law. This is just direct substitution of your mnemonics. Law, cosine of x times d high, d over dx of 1 minus 3 times x. Minus high, the function in your numerator, which is 1 minus 3x, times d law, d over dx of cosine of x, all over the square of cosine of x. So f prime of x is equal to cosine of x. And then look at that. That is a difference of two functions. The derivative of 1 with respect to x is 0. Minus the derivative of 3 times x is 3. So this becomes negative 3. And then minus, copy this. The derivative of cosine of x with respect to x is negative sine of x. And so simplifying this will give you this. F prime of x is equal to negative 3 times cosine of x. Look at that. Minus negative, it's going to be plus. And then we will distribute sine of x to 1 and negative 3 times x. So it becomes sine of x minus 3 times x times sine of x all over the square of cosine of x. So this is just the application of your quotient rule.